Now we're going to discuss looking at the solid organs of the chest. And really, this is going to be solid organs of the chest, essentially the mediastinum, and then also the solid organs of the upper abdomen. Because as we can see with our CT scan of the chest, we do catch a good portion of the upper abdomen. So for this particular part of the search pattern, like to have the axials on the left. We've moved back to medium slice thickness. This is 2.5 millimeter slices. And then having the coronal, I think, is very, very helpful for especially looking at the abdomen. So I like to have that on the right here. And what we'll do is we'll just start at the top of the scan. You can take a look at the thyroid again if you would like. This was part of our soft tissue part of the search pattern. Some people include it in kind of the mediastinum solid organ portion. So you can start up here at the top of the scan. You can take a look at the thyroid, and then we'll go into the mediastinum. We're looking for any, we're also looking for lymphadenopathy in the mediastinum, anything that's unusual. But as we scan down, we will come back and kind of look at the vessels later and trace the vessels. But it's helpful to take a good look at the heart, which is kind of coming in and out of view here. So as we kind of scan through, one of the things that catches my eye here is a little bit of coronary calcification. Significance of that can be contextualized with other risk factors for the patient. But then as we scan down a little bit lower, we know it's a non-con, so our resolution is not great. But when we're looking at this level of the heart, it's important to realize that, we have our left ventricle, right atrium, left atrium. And as we scan up and down, we can see, left ventricle is giving a rise to the aorta here. So we can trace vessels, the gray vessels, back to their appropriate location. Now, as you're scanning through the heart too, it's very, very useful to make sure that you look for things like pericardial effusion. Is there any fluid that's around the heart? You can definitely see that on a non-contrast. And also, sometimes there may be thymic tissue or masses that kind of are throughout the mediastinum. So you just want to be mindful of that as you're scanning through. Then as we kind of go through the mediastinum, we very easily can just kind of draw our attention over to the liver here. What we see here is the liver. We have air in the liver here. This is pneumobilia. This is a patient who had recent ERCP procedure, also had a relatively recent liver transplant. So we see these surgical clips here around the liver. So all of this makes sense, and these are expected findings for this patient. But again, as you can see, if you didn't have any other imaging, and this is kind of new pneumobilia, it could be it could be an explanation for something else. Now, because this is a liver transplant patient, we have to kind of interpret these things with a grain of salt and look at the abdominal imaging, or defer to the person who's reading the abdominal imaging. But what's important to realize is they're not going to have a gallbladder. But normally what we would do is we'd go to the liver, take a look at the liver, look at the gallbladder. But again, this is going to be surgically absent. Then we come over to the pancreas here and kind of follow it over, make sure everything looks good. Follow it to the spleen. We can look through the spleen. That looks okay. Now we can look at the kidneys here. We just get a little bit of the left kidney. And then here's our left adrenal. And here's where I think the coronals can be really, really helpful, where we can kind of appreciate our adrenal gland. Then we can appreciate the one on the other side. So this is our right adrenal right here. We can take a look at that. And then we can look at our right kidney. Again, we only get a partial view. So this has been us kind of scanning through all the way from the top of the mediastinum to the upper abdomen, looking at the solid organs and trying to make sure we don't miss anything that's relevant on this part of our search pattern.